So, you want to be a knight? Forget the fairy tales. Knighthood was a grueling path, reserved for the sons of nobility. From age 7, boys left home to serve as pages in a lord's castle, learning manners, reading, and the basics of chivalry. Pages ran errands, served at tables, and absorbed the strict discipline of court life. They learned about horses, weapons, and the social codes that ruled the medieval world. After 7 years, a page became a squire, apprenticed to a knight. Squires cared for armor and horses, trained in combat, and shadowed their knight everywhere, even into battle. Their days were filled with relentless drills, swordplay, jousting, and riding. Squires practiced mock battles, often getting bruised and battered. They learned tactics by watching their knight, and sometimes faced real danger on the battlefield. A squire's job was to support his knight, handing over weapons, helping him remount, and sometimes saving his life. Only after proving courage and skill, often in the chaos of war, could a squire hope to be knighted. The ceremony was brief, but the journey was long and perilous. Knighthood wasn't a choice. It was a duty earned through sweat, loyalty, and survival. The glamour? That came only after years of hard, dangerous work. For most, the dream of shining armor started with mud, bruises, and endless chores. The path from page to squire was a test of endurance, discipline, and heart. Only the toughest made it to the final step. And even then, the real challenges were just beginning. Knighthood meant a life of strict routine and service. Each day began with prayers. Faith was as important as the sword. A knight's loyalty to his lord was absolute. Breaking an oath was unthinkable. Training never stopped. Sword drills, jousting and riding kept a knight battle-ready. Managing land was part of the job, overseeing peasants, collecting taxes and keeping order. Knights were both warriors and local rulers, responsible for justice and protection. Social life revolved around feasts, hunts, and tournaments, opportunities to bond and build alliances. Hunting wasn't just sport, it honed skills needed for war. Feasts and ceremonies reinforced loyalty and camaraderie among knights. The castle was both a home and a training ground, everyday balance, duty, discipline, and the ever-present threat of war. Knights had to be strong, skilled, and politically savvy. Their lives were a blend of hard work, danger, and moments of celebration. The code of chivalry was their guide, but survival was always the real test. Armor was a knight's lifeline, first mail, then plate, evolving with the weapons of war. Early chainmail protected against cuts but not crushing blows. Plate armor covered every inch, deflecting swords and arrows, but it was heavy and expensive. Only the wealthy could afford a full suit, and putting it on required help. Despite the weight, a fit knight could fight, ride, and even run. The sword was iconic, but the lance was the main weapon in battle. Knights also wielded maces and war hammers to crush armor. Daggers were for close combat or finishing a downed foe. Each weapon had a purpose: cutting, crushing, or piercing. Armor and weapons were status symbols as much as tools of survival. A knight's arsenal was his identity, tailored to his fighting style. Maintenance was constant. Rust or a dull blade could mean death. The right gear could turn the tide of battle. In the chaos of war, a knight's equipment was his only shield against oblivion. Tournaments were the medieval world's grand spectacle, part sport, part training, all risk. Knights competed in jousts and melees, testing their skills before crowds and lords. Victories brought fame, fortune, and sometimes the spoils of defeated rivals. For many, tournaments were a path to wealth and reputation. But the line between sport and real combat was thin. Injuries and deaths were common. Lords encouraged tournaments to keep knights sharp for war. Champions like William Marshall built legendary careers on the tournament circuit. The rewards were great, but so were the dangers. Every event was a gamble, glory or grave. For a knight, the thrill of combat was irresistible, despite the risks. The battlefield was chaos, mud, blood and terror, nothing like the chivalric tales. Knights led cavalry charges, smashing into enemy lines with sheer force. If the charge failed, battle devolved into brutal hand-to-hand combat. A knight unhorsed was vulnerable, slow, and a prime target for foot soldiers. Survival depended on skill, strength, and luck. Capturing enemy knights for ransom was often more valuable than killing them. Common soldiers rarely received mercy. Class determined fate even in war. The psychological toll was immense. Fear and violence were constant companions. Armor and training gave knights an edge, but no guarantee of survival. The myth of honorable duels faded in the mud and mayhem. War was business, and the stakes were life or death. For most, the reality was a desperate fight to see another dawn. The true test of knighthood was surviving the carnage. Battle wasn't the only threat. A knight's life was fraught with hidden dangers. Disease killed more than swords. Infection, dysentery, and poor sanitation were constant threats. Training accidents, hunting mishaps, and tournament injuries claimed many lives. Political intrigue was deadly. Falling out of favor could mean exile or execution. Even armor could betray heatstroke. Drowning or getting stuck in mud could be fatal. The world was perilous, and a knight's status offered little protection from fate. Every day was a gamble on and off the battlefield. Survival required more than strength. It demanded cunning and luck. The dangers were everywhere, often striking when least expected. In the end, a knight's greatest enemy was the world itself. Old age was rare for knights. Most died young, in battle or from wounds. The lucky few retired to estates, managing lands and offering counsel. Many ended up penniless, dependent on their lord's charity or cast out. Some sought redemption in monasteries or joined military orders, trading swords for prayer. There was no pension, only what a knight earned or was given. Most met their end on the field, not in bed. The shining hero was often a scarred survivor, if he survived at all. To grow old was the rarest victory of all.